live debate. IntelligenceSquared.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, the notion that Christians are being bashed in this country was somewhat refuted by the visit recently of a Christian leader from Rome. He was fawned upon by all politicians, treated by the BBC to the uncritical coverage it usually reserves for royalty, and even the tabloids showed him respect, although they were hoping the Pope would get the same treatment as Tony Blair, who cancelled his book tour after eggs were thrown at him. The Sun even had its front page ready in hope, Eggs Benedict. And the protests were all polite and good-humoured, with the exception of the sour-faced Paisleyite Protestants from Northern Ireland, proving once again that the only people bashing Christians in this country are their fellow Christians. They've been at it again. They've been at it again today. A leading Church of England bishop has prompted outrage after he compared those who support the ordination of women bishops to the Nazis. The General Synod has been convulsed for years by puerile debates about whether women should be excluded from the ministry, whether the place of homosexuals is in the pulpit or in hell. Ordinary, decent people, Christians and agnostics alike, look on with amazement at the depth of homophobia that surfaces, at the horror of women based on some primitive idea that they're not up to offering communion during the menstrual cycle. Catholic dogma is even worse. The Pope has announced that for priests, ordaining a woman is as serious a crime as raping a child. Although, as one American bishop pointed out, this is actually progress. Finally, the Catholic Church accepts that raping a child is as serious as ordaining a woman. Britain, in fact, so far from being an anti-Christian country, on the contrary, is a country that unjustifiably discriminates in favour of Christians in politics, in education, and in our tax laws. Every day that Parliament sits, it begins with this prayer, read by a Church of England chaplain. Lord, the God of righteousness and truth, grant to our Queen and her government, to members of Parliament and all in positions of responsibility, the guidance of your Spirit. May they never lead the nation wrongly through love of power, desire to please, or unworthy ideals. Amen. Then they go off and fiddle their expenses, covet their neighbours' wives, and declare war on Iraq. In Australia, which has the Westminster system, they've just abolished parliamentary prayers and replaced them by the Aboriginal welcome to country. Perhaps we could start our political day with a Druid ceremony. Incidentally, why aren't we ever allowed to see them pray? The television cameras are turned off. Perhaps, as I read from the parliamentary website, for this reason, MPs and peers stand for prayers facing the wall behind them. It is thought that this practice developed due to the difficulty members would historically have faced of kneeling to pray while wearing a sword. If only. Well, in the Lords, they have 26 Church of England bishops, 26 by rights, the Lord's spiritual, no Catholics or mullahs or rabbis. So much for democracy. Their rather canting contributions are never of any consequence. But as the Church of England is the established church, it has this outrageous privilege, which is so typical of the inflated respect we accord to Christianity, that the white paper on Lord's reform, getting rid of the hereditaries, didn't even suggest getting rid of the Lord's spiritual. The Church of England, because it's established as part of the state, its church courts are paid for by the taxpayer. Pathetically, it accepts the monarch as its head and allows the Prime Minister to appoint its archbishops. George Carey came courtesy of Margaret Thatcher. One might think that if the Church of England had real guts, it would disavow this pomp and privilege, follow Christ's adjuration to render unto Caesar the things that are Caesar's, but no, it loves to sit undemocratically at the heart of the establishment. And For all the undemocratic aspect of this, no one bothers to complain. Christian churches receive massive tax breaks. George Osborne doesn't dare touch them. Under our obsolete charity laws, any trust for the advancement of religion is non-taxable unless it's for Trappist nuns. But a trust for the advancement of human rights is not charitable. Amnesty International can't get tax exemption, unlike Moonies and Children of God and any other ratbag Christian sect. The revenue offers special exemptions for vicars. They live tax-free in their vicarages. Council gives 100% rebate on council tax for church property. These tax breaks benefit, of course, it benefits from running educational establishment too. The last budget bashed the poor, it bashed the lawyers and social workers and public servants. Not a word the government dare speak about bashing the churches, about reducing their tax privileges. Dissolve a few monasteries, George, and we'd all have a break. There's no doubt, however, that Christians feel that they are being bashed. Part of this, I think, is wish fulfillment. They want to be martyred and persecuted. But the problem these days is that they don't turn the other cheek. There's a new breed of aggressive, egregious Christian who wants to hit back, in frustration, I suspect, because the churches are so empty. So instead of blaming themselves, they falsely claim that they're under attack. Incidentally, there is a piece of good news from a recent report. There is one place where Christianity is increasing enormously. It's in our prisons. Over half our prisoners declare that they're Christian. So, of course, that helps them, I suppose, with parole. But let's get real. Christianity is fully and fairly protected in this country by our Bill of Rights. Everyone has the right to freedom of religion and to manifest his religion in belief, worship, teaching, and observance. So what do these aggressive Christians complain about? Sikhs are allowed to wear turbans when driving motorbikes. Big deal. Do Christians want to wear turbans while driving their motorbikes? Sikhs get exemption because it's a requirement of their religion, and other religions don't have silly requirements whereby you risk having your brains knocked out if you fall off your motorbike. Rastas, who may be a Christian sect, complain that their dreadlocks get shaved off when they go to prison. So the government made a special agreement that because it was a requirement of their religion they wouldn't be shaven. Then they said, oh, well, but getting drugged on cannabis is a requirement of our religion. We've got to get stoned every day. And the government, illogically but understandably, refused them to give them exemption from the drug laws. So back they went to prison. Myths grow up. You can't wear a small crucifix around your neck if you work for BA. You can. You've always been able to. At one point, it had a rule against any jewelry. Then that wasn't discriminatory because it applied to everyone. Then it changed it, and anyone now on BA can wear a symbol of faith or charity. BA doesn't bash Christians, it loses everyone's luggage irrespective of their faith. We were told, I'll finish by telling you about Mr. McFarlane, who was one of George Carey. George Carey, in fact, gave evidence on behalf of Mr. McFarlane, the counsellor for Relate. He demanded a court of 5 evangelical judges in order to decide it, because judges didn't understand religion. Mr. McFarlane was a counsellor, a member of the British Association of Therapists, which had a rule, a code of ethics, saying that he couldn't discriminate on grounds of sexual orientation. So did Relate. He signed the employment contract. And then he decided he wouldn't counsel gay couples because they were living in sin, and I quote, homosexuals who do not repent will go to hell when they die. So homosexual couple coming to Relate, which was funded by the taxpayer, would be told, go to hell. George Carey gave evidence for him, said this was not discrimination against gays. It was, in fact, spreading the Christian message of love. I quote, spreading the Christian message of love by trying to limit their self-destructive conduct. Well, that was rejected by the court. So finally, these cases are not bashing Christians, they're ensuring that idiosyncratic and bigoted Christians don't bash gays and other minorities at the public expense. They're ensuring that Britain remains a free and tolerant society committed to equality, a commitment necessary when a body calling itself Intelligence Squares can arrange a debate with 7 men and no women.